Alright, so cheese is one of those things that you get in trouble with because you like it and you overconsume it. Nobody eats the correct portion size when it comes to cheese. So some recommendations that I have for cheese. Number one is that you want to look for where it says 2% milk, made with 2%. Sargento has a good reduced fat brand that you can look for that says 2%, and then Kraft makes it 2%. And you'll see where it says 2% milk on the package. And what I like about the Sargento and the Kraft is that they're pre-sliced. Like if you buy the blocks of cheese, you're probably not going to slice the correct portion size. So I would just take the guesswork out of it and buy the ones that are pre-sliced. And you want to always get ones that say 2% milk. They have it in sliced cheese, they have it in string cheese, they have it in blocks, they have it in shredded cheese. They have a good variety of 2% cheeses. I don't know if anybody's ever used the fat-free cheese. The fat-free cheese, they're not very good to cook with. They usually cook like rubber, and that's what it tastes like when you put it in your mouth. So the only thing that I can kind of get away with fat-free cheese, sometimes I can get away with it in my salads and all the other stuff, and my eggs. I just think the consistency of the egg kind of overconsumes it. But for every other purpose, I would highly recommend the 2% cheese. With some of the recipes that we have on the website, like pizzas, tacos, fajitas, that kind of thing, you definitely want to pick the 2% shredded cheese. The thing that you just want to remember is using the correct portion size. The correct portion size is 1/4 of a cup when it comes to shredded cheese. Okay, so when it comes to salad, you look at this, you're like, whoa, there's nothing healthy here. And for the most part, you're right, there really isn't anything healthy. This says smoked turkey sausage, and I just want to do a little analysis with another product that's on the other side of the aisle. We come over here, you see the same thing, turkey franks, jumbo Genio turkey franks, 50% less fat. But let's really zoom in and look at the label. What's that say? 9 grams of fat, and how many grams of protein? Only 7 grams of protein. Do you eat something like this as a fat source? No, you eat this as a protein source. So you want something that actually has more protein than fat. These Johnsonville turkey sausages just have that. They have more protein than fat. What I really like to do, besides having it on maybe a whole wheat bun, is put it in my whole wheat egg noodles. And that recipe's on the website, and we'll kind of talk about that more in general. But I get whole wheat egg noodles, I cut up the turkey sausage, put olive oil, dry pesto, Mr. Yoshida's again. And if I'm really ambitious, I'll throw in some zucchini and squash. Okay, so another thing in this part of the grocery store that I always like to point out is this Hormel turkey pepperoni. This is, obviously it's 70% less fat than regular pepperoni, and some different things that I like to do with the turkey pepperoni is I like to make healthy pizzas with it, I like to put it in my salads, and I also put it in my omelets. And it's very flavorful, and once again it has 70% less fat than your regular pepperoni. If you have hypertension, anything like, you know, pepperoni, cheese, it's going to be processed, so it's going to be a little bit higher in sodium. But if you're drinking more water like you're supposed to, and then not having the diagnosis of hypertension, you can do the turkey pepperoni. Speaking of pizza, this is your pizza crust right here. This Mission Carb Balance whole wheat tortilla. If you see the serving size of the tortillas, it's actually pretty big. What I like to do is put my marinara sauce or my spaghetti sauce down on the tortilla, and I'll put the 2% mozzarella cheese that we pointed out earlier, turkey pepperoni, you can put the honeysuckle breakfast sausage, and then you want to load it up with whatever vegetables you like, whether it's peppers, onions, and then you can sprinkle oregano, Parmesan cheese on it. One thing I want to point out, look at the fiber content of this bad boy, 21 grams of fiber. That's a lot of fiber for one tortilla. Okay, you see this, I'm not recommending this, but they make these bags in what they call smart mixes. They don't have it here at Price Cutter, but you can get it at other stores where it's the baked chips or sun chips. And what I like about the ones that are pre-portioned, the variety bags, is that for most people are not going to count out, they're not going to go to one of the big bags and count out 17 chips, which would probably be the correct portion size. So I would recommend controlling the portion for you and getting the individual bags and just having one bag of yours. And that's called Smart Mix. That's Flavor Mix, not Flavor Mix, Smart Mix. Okay, here at Price Cutter, they have the 90% lean ground beef, and that's what I would recommend. At some stores, they might have a diet lean called 96.4. I usually don't recommend the 96.4, it's just a dry hamburger. I would recommend the 93.7 or leaner, or I'm sorry, the 90 or up. At Walmart, they have the 93.7. one thing that I like to do with this, besides make like tacos or spaghetti, is make delicious cheeseburgers. You're like, how do you make delicious but nutritious cheeseburgers? What I do with this hamburger is that I'll put the Oscar Mayer bacon bits, which I'll point out earlier, only 25 calories per serving. I'll put Worcestershire sauce, garlic powder, and the secret ingredient is whole wheat crackers. That's the key to keep the moisture in the hamburger. And then I'll top it with a slice of that 2% cheese that we were talking about earlier. Put it on a healthy bun that I'll point out here in a little bit. The turkey recipe that I was talking about with the peppers, the tri-colored peppers earlier with the brown rice, Mr. Yoshida's, the hot sauce, this is the turkey I recommend right here, 93.7 honeysuckle turkey. Alright, when you come to this part of the meat, we got red meat and pork here. And when you think of red meat or pork, you want to think of the two words, filet or sirloin. Those are going to be your leaner cuts of meat. Anything that has rib in it is going to have a lot of marbling, and that's going to be high in fat. What comes from meat is saturated fat. Saturated fat comes from animal source, and of course, meat comes from animal sources. Saturated fat is the one that increases your LDL cholesterol, or the lousy one, the one you want low levels of. So you want to make sure that you're not only in the correct portion size, but you're picking the right cuts of meat. So let's just look at some of these. Alright, so this is ribs. You see where it says ribs in here? Just look at the fat content. You see all that white stuff? That's fat. Remember that pound of fat I showed you earlier? Let's look at another one. Here's a ribeye steak. This has quite a bit of marbling. Obviously you would want to trim off any visible fat. Let's look at some of the leaner cuts of meat. Here's a boneless sirloin. You can see that it doesn't have nearly the marbling as like a rib steak. So I would recommend going with either sirloin or filet steak when you're choosing red meat or pork. This is a great example of rib. Look at that fat content in the meat. And it's hard to trim some of the meat that's down inside the meat. So you just want to stay away from rib altogether. When it comes to chicken, I would recommend boneless, skinless chicken breast. So whether you get it fresh or frozen, doesn't really matter. Obviously fresh is going to be better quality, it's going to be easier to cook with. But if you want to buy something that's a little bit cheaper, the frozen chicken breast that's skinless would be a good alternative to fresh. Here's Honeysuckle. They have some good products. They have some turkey breakfast links. I actually recommend the patty sausage, which I'll show you in the frozen section later on, better than the links. The links kind of have a weird casing on them. They also have some Italian sausage and pork roast. You just really want to look for meat to have less than 5 to 6 grams of fat per serving of like 3 to 4 ounces. All right, when it comes to eggs, I recommend only 2 whole eggs a week. 1 egg yolk has 2/3 of your daily cholesterol. I think the last time I checked it was 217 milligrams of cholesterol. The RDA for cholesterol, the recommended daily allowance, is only 300 milligrams. So an egg has over 2/3 of your daily cholesterol. So 2 whole eggs a week. So you're gonna be eating some egg whites or these egg beaters. A lot of times I like the Southwestern style. You can throw the turkey pepperoni in it, some low-fat cheese, and make a great omelet. But with the egg whites, you're at the doctor up, and that's what I was just referencing to. You can put any kind of vegetable in it, like peppers or onions, do the turkey pepperoni, the honeysuckle breakfast sausage, things like that, to kind of make the pill go up with using egg whites. All right, just look at this section. It's overwhelming. There's a bunch of choices here. Butter, margarine, what do you go with? I recommend picking a trans fat-free light margarine. And there's a few options. Some of them, you pick a trans fat-free light margarine. You see this Smart Bounce Light. This is great, healthy. But the only thing that I don't like about it is if you squeeze it, it's hard. It's hard to spread. You want something that you can use with. They actually have one right next to it, or right down from it, the Smart Bounce Hard Light, which is a much softer margarine. And this is not only nutritious but delicious as well. It's easier to use. You can see how much easier to squeeze. Some other alternatives, the Brummel Brown yogurt one is a good option. And then also the Promise. Oh, right here, the Promise. Here it is. And it's a softer margarine that's easier to use as well. Yogurt, hopefully you're a yogurt fan. This makes for a great mid-morning or mid-afternoon snack. One thing that I would recommend would probably Yoplait Light. You can find lower calorie options in yogurt, but the thing is it's a little deceptive on why they're lower calories. This is a 6-ounce portion. Most of the time when they're going to be less calories, it's going to be a 4-ounce portion. So I actually recommend the 6-ounce portion just to provide more satiety, and that's a good size for a mid-afternoon or mid-morning snack. So Yoplait Light's a good option, but they do have some lower calorie options if you like them, but you're probably just going to sacrifice a couple ounces when you do that. So milk. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to say when it comes to milk. I recommend skim milk, of course, and the one that I like personally is the skim milk extra. You're like, what's the extra about? It put thickening agents in it for it can have the same consistency as 2% milk. What's the #1 complaint about skim milk? It tastes like water. So with the skim milk extra, you get the same consistency as 2% milk with the thickening agents. Alright, so coffee creamers, this is the bias of a lot of people. I'm a big coffee drinker. I've actually made that kind of a New Year's resolution to slow that down a little bit, but for the most part, I'm not a big advocate of coffee creamers, but I'm gonna give you some alternatives that you can use. One thing is that you can throw a little skim milk extra in it, then stevia or Splenda, whatever your sweetener of choice is. We'll talk about that, what I recommend when you get to the sweetener aisle. And then a dash of cinnamon. That's a good idea to kind of go away from the creamers that are going to be filled with sugar and trans fats a lot of times. Or you could get the no sugar added or the sugar-free 25-calorie Swiss Miss and put that in your coffee with a little bit of the skim milk extra to kind of make like a mochaccino for yourself. And that's really good. So another golden rule, and I mentioned this earlier, you don't want to consume your calories with beverages because they don't provide satiety, but they do have some options in the OJ section. They have the Trop 50, which is 50% less sugar and calories, which I've served at some events. Nobody can tell the difference, so this is a good alternative for orange juice. And then Minute Maid also makes the lights right here. That's the same thing as the Trop 50. So that's another option. If you had to have that, the orange juice, and you couldn't sacrifice without it, I'd go with either one of those. Okay, so now we're to the hamburger buns. I gave you that awesome recipe for a delicious cheeseburger earlier. And these are the buns that I recommend. Earth Grains just came out with 2 buns. They're the 100% whole wheat and the 100% multigrain. The 2 things that I like about them is that they're thin. If you can kind of see how thin they are, most people don't like a bready bun. So they're not only thin, but they're also a good fiber source and low calorie.